My name is Helena Slívová, and I'm coming from Tieto Every. And today, I would like us to focus a bit on Sbom and how we can actually meld it together with a protocol. If someone would come to you for your team and ask you, how do you represent your product structure? Or how do you ensure vulnerability safe deployment? Or also, do you use events to trigger your flow to compose your deliveries? These are exactly the topics which I would like us to focus during today and see how we can meld it all together. Let us see what comes out from our discussion with you as the key players. When it comes to those questions, we could discuss dozens of approaches on how to. However, I would like us to try to pick up one, the one which is floating around us for quite some time. It is actually the software bill of material, or Sbom. It provides detailed inventory of software product. It can show what other software is included in your product. It has the power to actually increase the software security. Software bill of material helps to show all the dependencies. It can ease up monitoring and solve security-related vulnerabilities. It can address licensing issues by easy discovery of what licenses are used by the software, which we have included to our builds. All in all, it can lower the supply chain risks. Here on the side, you can also see an example of commonly used formats to represent Sbom. One is in the CycloneDX, the other in the SPDX. I put it there just for a reference for the case we would like to return to it later on. You all know about the software lifecycle, right? You have the stages like development, build, test, deployment, and runtime. And in all those phases, the Sbom generation can take its place. In some stages, we will benefit from having the Sbom generated fast with reasonable accuracy for that moment. In other stages of our product development, we will get a very precise list of used software, its licenses, even already reported vulnerabilities, but with the cost of a longer time to craft it all together. I'd like us now to shortly focus on each of the stages of the lifecycle of software development and deployment, and try to see what comes with that. When it comes to development, the pros are, for example, the large dependencies. These will be captured in the Sbom. It is quite easy to automate, easy to integrate into CI/CD pipelines. However, with this comes also some cons. For example, the transitive dependencies will not be resolved yet. Also, the runtime environment is not considered during that time. If we would try to create Sbom during build of our product, we can be pretty much sure that the dependencies are resolved. Again, the benefit is that we can easily integrate it in our CI/CD pipelines. However, still on the other side, there could be some dependencies reflected in our Sbom, which are not really used in the end. Also, it shows to be a bit harder to to track to the exact source of things which we are using. In case we would try to create Sbom during test phase, we can be very much sure that it will reflect the real environment. This is because in our tests, we usually try to mimic as much as the production environment as possible. So thanks to that, we can get quite accurate results. It would be probably beneficial to try to compare these results with results which we got for Sbom created during development or build. However, still, during the test phase, there might be some environments which are not fully complete. For example, we often mock up some parts which are not really of our interest or of our impact. So in this case, we will see the clear dependencies there. During the deployment, if we create Sbom during deployment, it will be very much production-like. We can rely on having release time compliance displayed in such a Sbom. However, the downside is that it is getting even harder to backtrack to build time artifacts. And at runtime, we will get very, very precise results. It can start for zero trust. We can use it for runtime check on compliance when it comes to, for example, licenses. On the other hand, it gets very much complex. We might be facing performance issues. Even there could be impact on security because we would probably need to ensure that we don't leak information which we don't want to leak. I would like us to.
Can I ask a question? Before we go into this one, this may seem like it's a very rudimentary question, a bit naive, but when we say Sbom, do we necessarily mean just the sort of software that you have in your own mind that you're sort of responsible for, or do you put the full stack into the context, meaning environment where it runs, your dependent services where you have one, sort of put all those things into the Sbom? So where do you put the limit, outer limit of the context of what the Sbom should contain? Because it all depends on sort of the pros and cons here. Because I can see that sometimes you're thinking about only the part that you create, and in other cases you're talking about what environment it runs in the interactions. So I really couldn't get a good picture of, is it the full stack or is it just the application that you
I would say it actually depends on the phase of the development of the product. Because at runtime, you really can then see what it is running on. While in development, you don't know yet. Or you have your development environment, but it will not reflect the complete stack when it is installed then in the production system.
But Sbom could or should include the full stack.
In the end, I would say,
There could be the question is very good. I would say there could be different reasons for asking for an Sbom, and depending on what we ask, we would answer. And Sbom could be containing the stuff we code ourselves. It could also include all the stuff that is there. It could be bits and pieces of almost everything. It could. There is a theoretical depth that is immense, but there is some kind of a practical depth in this that could be up for discussion, I would say. So it's like asking a person, we have a body here, we have an arm, or we have cells, or we have DNAs. It's a kind of a theoretical possibility to ask really deep questions. when we're talking about Sboms. And sometimes that could be the right question, and sometimes that is not a feasible question. So it's kind of fuzzy or unknown what depth we are aiming at.
Then maybe for the sake of the remaining part of this presentation or for further discussions, at least one should have some assumption on what we believe would be the context of an Sbom, because if you're not really clear of that, it would be really hard to sort of figure out, what to do with it, how to treat it, and, because as you said, it can be a small thing or a huge thing. And it depends what it is, the surrounding environment, also, the apparatus that goes around managing it can be either small or virtually impossible. So maybe for the record, at least we should have an ambition level on where we would like to see the Sbom to be, and then it can be extended maybe. So.
And also you can do it as the one company I happen to know is the only one. It's only one company, at least in the galaxy of Milky Way, that do it that way.
Yeah.
And that is to make it really, really complicated and base the Sbom to customer on PLM data. That has to be seen as not a very wise thing.
But it is still once in the galaxy. So.
Yeah, one company. Yeah. Just one comment and one question there. So just want to point out that the declared dependencies and if we want a one-day workshop on the difficulties in getting hold of correct declared dependencies, we can run that at any time when you want. The other thing is a question. Unused the point is that it's very difficult to figure it out in a somewhat decent way. A lot of tools claims that they have it, but they really do not. Unused dependencies. What do we mean by that? What is unused dependencies? What do you think about that?
I'm thinking about,
Case coverage.
for example, the dependencies which then will not be basically used in the production environment.
The build machine included, but it's in real life that code.
Could be all the versions that are there in build specs or whatever, but actually deprecated and left alone.
But normally the customer Sbom would include it. There is no way you can.
No one have made the cleaning work, perhaps.
Or different reasons.
Yeah, I think we could discuss further on this. Like, for example, what would be really your interest? When would you like to generate a Sbom? Because based on that, it then matters how we want to integrate it. Also, with the protocol, where do we want to melt it? I like to continue the discussion, and we can. I actually do have kind of like a brainstorming session in the end, but I like to trigger the discussion on it also during the presentation. This is not only really just a presentation. Thank you for those questions so far. Let's then put Sbom a little bit aside and remind us about the AFIL protocol slightly. It is for, as we know, it is for the event-based CI/CD pipelines and products with event-based architecture. If you think about this, events, architecture, CI/CD pipelines, then you want to know the product structure, want to secure security. Does it all invite you to think about how to utilize, to craft, or get Sbom at the moment you need?
I can mention one thing that a comment from Lukas Kirchek. There are different types of Sboms depending on life cycle stage and all are valid ones. It really depends on our requirements, what type we want to use. If we want to know with what parts of OS our software is using, then we use runtime, etc. So kind of similar.
Good answer. Doesn't make things easier though, but it's still a good answer.
Yeah, it is really a fine line to balance. You need to think what you want to have and how you want to use it, when you want to utilize it.
Thank you, Lukas.
I think that actually this event-based CI/CD solutions directly opens up a question. If there could be a way how to use those events together with Sbom creation at various stages of software development and deployment, I think what we can discuss here is how we could integrate Sbom, how we could meld it together with a full protocol, so that we benefit from it, how it works hand in hand. I think we could actually use the reference to existing Sbom and save it as a link in the event, which will be sent through our CI/CD pipelines. That Sbom could be created by whichever existing Sbom generator, maybe something which you're already using. Or we could actually try to utilize AFL events directly to be able to even generate that Sbom, because those events which we send contain lots of information already now. And in case we would extend those events with the information which we need to have a proper information held in the Sbom, then we could have it right away, anytime we like, really on the fly. Basically, anytime we need to create an Sbom as the artifact flows through our pipeline. And I was even thinking that maybe we could try to utilize AI in some way to actually pick all those cherries which we have in the flow to create Sbom in the end.
And that whole idea is based on the fact that we deal with the file references, so you will always keep track of the file reference. So the only tiny little small detailed programming that remains is to translate the file ref, if it's an external software, to what it is.
Or we might need to add some metadata to our events so that we can really get all the information.
Because even the build system won't know. Even the build audit, let's say you have a very advanced build audit system in your build system, let's say, you will still only have a file ref, and you always have to translate the file ref to the thing we are dealing with. And I don't know if you know what we do now for C++ for being only when we have not Basel, not Yocto. So we have everything with AOX or BOX build audit systems. There we do not have a knowledge base. So Basel and Yocto would come with a knowledge base where you can translate the file reference to external ID, basically of the 3PP. But if you have our own, I built something called AOX back in the day, and there is a new version of it now, BOX. And if you have those type of build order systems, you do not have a file ref. So the shortcut there is to use a composition analysis tool to simply ask, do you recognize the file? Black duck, do you know what it is? And they will tell us, because there you end up in a very difficult situation. And as all of you know, global warming and Gaza crisis, Ukraine, everything will be sorted with a perfectly less bomb. That is what everybody keeps telling us. And I believe they are right, because the dream, the utopia of a perfectly less bomb is just not there. It's like the golden treasure at the end of the rainbow. You just cannot get it, because what would you do if you wanted to translate the file ref in your AFL event to a perfect external ref? It's very simple. You have to sort it out there and then. Exactly when you do that request, exactly when you try to use it, you have to figure out what is the provenance, the full provenance of this particular file. And that can never happen because it's too many files. So we always have to be knowledge based there. So like for instance, Basel and Yocto, they are build systems. I'm only talking with C++ here now, just bear with me. But a Yocto base, for instance, they have a knowledge base in their solution where they have translated the file as they identify it in their build system to an external web. But that is knowledge-based information. It's not that they go out all and vacuum clean all the internet for the provenance of that file. They cannot do. Take too long time. So they just populate the knowledge base, and you can be dead sure it's never perfect.
Is the Sbom like what we did in VVMS?
Basically, yeah.
When you continue here, as I said, you get sort of lots of information implicit into the events. Does that in any way sort of take into account, let's say, dependencies or dependent software, or is that sort of a darker area where you have to sort of work harder to get those sort of dependencies being flushed out as well? I guess you don't get that for free.
It basically depends how deep you want to go.
True. I suppose you can't rule out the need to handle dependencies sooner or later. So that's sort of whether you can do that in a proper way.
But basically, when you are creating a commit, you already know what are the dependencies floating around. So could be easy to get those. I wanted to challenge you a bit, thinking about some other way how we could integrate this Sbom and AFU protocol. Do you have something in your mind, guys?
Internal, external, well, other third way.
Maybe when you mention like Sbom composition from events, what about having like new types of events suitable for Sbom, using them for creating an Sbom?
Basically, you mean like, for example, use an event to even trigger creating the Sbom?
Yeah, like different types of events, having the new types of events for Sbom creation, Sbom life cycle.
Then you basically trigger it on when you really want.
Yes, for example.
How to use it together. Yeah.
Yeah, there is that's a very good point, actually, because it might be so, or it will be so, that we are interested in what are the dependency at a later stage when not our product updates, but when environment like OS parts or whatever updates. That means we don't build and release a new software product, but the OS under it would evolve.
Well, it depends on, it's pretty much what Lucas said. There are different types of Sboms, and during the different sort of status of development, then you will have, you will reshape the Sbom from let's say, contained software build and then further put it into its runtime lifecycle for dependencies to basically grow, or at least change its shape along the road. At least.
So it's about finding the perfect combination for the system we would the Sbom to create for.
Yeah.
Based on the system and based on our needs.
Based on our needs, exactly.
Yes.
Because everyone can have different needs. As a developer, you have some needs. As a product owner, you have some other needs. As PM, you have another needs, most probably, to see how this. Yeah.
There might also be the case that everything looks fine and nice, and as a product manager, you are approached with some information that this vulnerability is revealed somewhere in the world. Do your product contain this one? You may want to answer that question, and then we should be able to trigger to know, do we have this? We should get that answer. Either we have an Sbom, but most probably we would like to trigger it and analyze Sbom at that point to find out the answer on this question. Do we contain this vulnerability or not? To produce an evidence, let's say. for the customer.
And since this is sort of a living information set, I suppose also that one have to be very careful in managing its identity, version, and where it applies. So if this sort of Sbom becomes sort of an entity in its own way with a life cycle and needs to be changed or follows, and so you need to be able to compose it, track it, and handle it in a very accurate way.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not an easy task.
Mm.
Exactly.
But the cool idea with using AFL and this type of approach is that we could have it built system agnostic for it. That's very attractive in itself. Even implementation technology agnostic maybe potential.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you.
So Galaxy.
No, I think that would be no, that could be a little bit more than that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
that's an interesting aspect.
Let us rewind a little bit to the first circle about the Sbom reference. We could be considering here, for example, modification of the existing events to be able to add the reference to Sbom. So I was like thinking, yeah, maybe the build event or deployment event. This could include the reference to Sbom, already existing Sbom, I mean. And it will also help us to ensure the traceability then. We would need to standardize Sbom metadata in for such changes in events. Basically, we would need to define the component information in such metadata. We could also put there the vulnerabilities if we want to. And we need to provide the information about which tool has generated this metadata. And yeah, the timestamp and the context, because that would be really important information. Also,
Vulnerabilities keep popping up all the time, so
yeah,
that would not be,
that's why we have that timestamp there also, because then it is a clear reference to the moment when it was generated or when it was.
few moments later there will come another.
Exactly. Exactly.
Vulnerabilities and events are quite a good match. Representing a vulnerability as an event is that should be that if you want.
Yeah, precis. Just events on there whenever any vulnerability pops up. And we then know that, yeah, we have this dependency according to our Sbom, then we know. Here is an example when we will treat Sbom as an artifact. We could probably update the artifact link event to contain necessary information about the Sbom, the timestamp, of course, and the name of the Sbom, the URI to the location where the Sbom is stored. And it could be wherever you would like to have it. And then we have all this information in such artifact link event. And that could be then used whenever we like. But make it easy to trace the exact composition of the software throughout the pipeline then. That would be. If we go back into the Sbom composition from events, which seems to be maybe the most luring from what I could hear here in the audience. I'm thinking we could probably update some components, some events there as well, or even introduce a completely new event. For example, here this A2 composition define event that is quite, I would say, it is probably quite an used event because it helps you to define to show from what the product is composed from all the submodules and so. While the A4 artifact created event, yeah, this is the event which is used throughout our pipelines, right? When we are delivering any artifact. And if we would modify that one so that it carries the component Sbom related metadata, then we have what we need to be able to actually create Sbom at any moment. And if we would also introduce the AFL Sbom generated event, that is what you have mentioned actually. We can then trigger it anytime we like to be able to create Sbom, not only during the regular run through the pipeline, but really on demand. It basically allows the declarative Sbom generation without a need to scan artifacts or images. Events carry lots of the data, so we can just read it and assemble as we like. What I see as benefits from this approach is that we basically have no extra Sbom scanning step because we already have all the information in the flow, in the pipeline. We just need to pick what we want to know. It is also versioned and trace stable because the Sbom is inherently linked to builds and source code commits. It is possible to compose it as we like. It allows the partial Sboms at module level or even to roll up towards the full product. And it is also scalable because we can use it across distributed builds. We can use it in microservices, multi-repository architectures. I see this one as an interesting way forward. And it is really then on our needs, what we actually want to receive. How much do we want to integrate it in this AP protocol? And I like to now again come back to you. What are your needs? And basically have kind of like a brainstorming. Your needs, what are the protocol changes needed? And maybe it will be for further discussions in future summits. If you would like to go this way and introduce some changes in the protocol so that we actually support creating Sbom on the fly. So, what are your needs? What do you want?
I can say-
Organization in itself is kind of interesting if you think about it. The organization, because what is happening really is that everybody use whatever they have available, so to speak. That means that we have Sboms with various quality all over the place in different. So if this could be an approach to drive standardization, it's interesting. One of the anyways.
Mm.
But I think that there are some potential with getting the needed level of precision in the and be guaranteed, or we could define some sort of quality level for everything with this approach.
Invite Olivia to discussion.
Yeah, but I can tell you what she would say. Then I can quote her, and she would just say that whatever we do, we can verify it with what Dr. is saying, and yeah, we can always do that. It's one way to verify or quality check what we're dealing with. If Black Duck is the answer to everything, I don't know. I mean, we use Black Duck to get the external rep for some of those file references, where we have a file ref in the build/AFL situation. If we go and get a file, and you will have the location, you know what file it is, but you don't know what the file is. Okay, how do you translate the file? Internal file ref to external ID that you would external ref standard URL per chart, whatever you want to use for as an external URL for the force. Also, we have the course, by the way, but that whole translation thing is the key thing for this approach.
Any question to access that Volvo? How much has you been looking at Sboms and so on?
We've been publishing Sboms for, I think, about 18 months now.
Yeah.
We use open embedded, so we just use pretty much out of the box what we get. So since they're part of the build, they're also part of our artifacts. So they're available.
But you build it on you base it on build Sbom.
Yeah.
Same as all the other contents. Step one.
And we don't. I'm not CI/CD, but I don't think I would say I don't actually know how they believe. Yeah, what how that is. I don't know if it is relevant here, but from my knowledge, they pushed quite fast of that to that. And there are other systems that are part, so specific protocol for. I mean, we only have a, so we don't have another protocol or message implementation that is doing other messaging protocols. But I mean, to other systems. So.
Yeah.
It's completely new for topic.
But regards to the user needs, to answer your question, and I think we already talked about it, for example, about the vulnerabilities, to have at least some overview. Because we have a bunch of them. For example, if some of the 3PP we are using, some of the dependencies has some vulnerabilities. Know about it. We have some agnostic system or even automatic alerts.
Yeah, and the important thing, I mean, is that the source of that database is where it needs to be. For instance, in Arizona, we can only have one feed base. Of course, we today we allow the teams to use BlackDuck and see, okay, what is BlackDuck saying in terms of ability. That doesn't mean that it's an Arizona official feed of vulnerabilities. And by the way, in case you're curious, the BlackDuck only covers 60%. Even if you compare to NIST, it's a pretty low number.
You use BlackDuck for APA?
No. I think earlier. No, I'm not sure. Does it support Maven like products?
In BlackDuck? Sure. Yes. It's all main implementation technologies are supported, both for software composition or binary scan.
Do you use EVMS for vulnerability information?
So the story with EVMS is that so EVMS is the Ericsson vulnerability management system, and there we have a team over in the Group Financial Technology product security group in Mikko's group called PCERT, and they are anyway they are hosted in Vienna nowadays. But anyway, so PCERT do a lot of monitoring of the data in EVMS, and they create vulnerability alerts. And that could be seen as the Ericsson official. But in real life, they are primarily working on special sources for vulnerabilities, and that is primarily for COPS, you could say. Of course, they try to convey messages about the NIST vulnerability database. But I mean, for us, dealing with these kind of things, NIST is too slow. It's always like a 2-3 day delay before vulnerability officially get into the NIST vulnerability database, and that was before Trump had all these problems to pay the salaries. But anyway, so I mean, PCERT is not necessarily so in the PLM solutions today, it's not. There are some PLM systems that have the information today, but it's not conveyed or it's not available in a super way. Will be soon, come November, December, maybe something like that. It will be available via some sort of API, some sort of notification system. So that will be there some official, and it's substance-based information. So, but if we are going to deal with vulnerabilities, just to really point it out, we cannot just say that, okay, we use this tool to feed the vulnerability data. Never good enough. Never good enough.
We got a comment from Emil Beckmark as well. Sbom can be huge if all that data should be included within the Eiffel events so that we can generate a customer Sbom based on event data only. The events would potentially be very large. That's a comment. Another thing regarding those needs, licensing information, knowledge about licensing, because in old days we made CM decisions on a centralized way for our products. Now, when you are a developer, you can pull in stuff quite easily. So licensing information and vulnerabilities, I mean, that's important needs to keep control of license information.
Just to be transparent about it, so it will be also another advantage, like transparency in general,
Mhm.
for all those things about all dependencies used in the system.
Yeah, exactly, that is basically what Sbom brings, right? This the transparency of the product structure. Yeah. I have put a couple of bullets here at least. The product transparency. Thank you. But also, yeah, we have been talking about this vulnerabilities overview. I think we also put the licensing. I'm thinking we might be having need, for example, for tracking the software life cycle, meaning that the deployment event could include information about Sbom for this software version, such that would allow actually the stakeholders to verify which components were part of the deployed software and whether this meets the security and licensing standards. That's basically what you mentioned about licensing.
So
like from the
just to
perspective
clarify
of the
something
stakeholder.
about this person, what is going to happen there with different stuff and licenses and all that, and that is that we're introducing something that is defined on group level, that is called policy-based decision making, which is exactly the opposite of what we're doing today. Today in Arizona, everything is based on very manually handled Word document-based decisions. If you're going to use something for MIMO users, of course, it's not really Word, it's in MIMO, but it's still a very manual type of decision making. We do have a definition on the company that we are going to do policy-based. So the way policy-based works is that you define basically for your product that you have certain requirements that you want to fulfill. Maybe you have a limitation of license types. You may have even other limitations in community or dependency situation. You can define a policy that you do not allow more than a certain number of dependencies and stuff. And then the whole idea is that as soon as you have your build Sbom, you would match that towards the policy.
Exactly.
And think about it in this particular context. I mean, I think that the key point for the April-based or the event-based approach to deal with Sbom information is that April would know if we think about dependency, for instance, April would know what the build system is requesting. We keep track of that. So that would be the type of, the point is April would be able to know what the we call it build Sbom. I don't know exactly which, if we are really talking about but it's something close to build Sbom. And then you can apply that and you can match it towards some sort of policy. But I don't see that there would be some sort of April situation that the April itself would have awareness of the policies and stuff like that. I mean, of course we could build it that way, but we have some other ideas on how to do it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be integrating those policies into the protocol itself. Yes.
Why would you bother about the licenses? I mean, licenses is only, first of all, you have to have very precise license information.
It's just to know what licenses are basically used in the product.
Yeah, but it's metadata on the external software, isn't it? So, because of, say it's commercial or it's it's open source product and there is a license and the license obligations. But why would if we care about it? I mean, the key point is to keep track of that we use. The identification is the key point. I mean, and of course, with the identification, you can connect what sorts of metadata to that identification, like license information and other metadata. But I don't really see the point. I think that the key point here is that with April technology, we could create the Sbom. I think that is kind of good enough.
And basically having the product transparency and then the information about vulnerabilities and licenses having somewhere aside.
Yeah.
And having something else what will basically melt it together. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, it's further needs, if we say so. It's not immediate needs for Eiffel itself, but the user of Eiffel would be interested in both vulnerabilities and licenses and stuff.
But you might use it for some very important things. For example, if you would, let's say you want to automate vulnerability handling, for example, having the Sbom represented there and having vulnerabilities sent out as an event and to automate that process. And you can actually do quite interesting things with the orchestration part, event-based vulnerability handling control.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that yet, but that could be a potential use case.
Yeah, I could even imagine, that if we have some vulnerability management system, that whenever there is a new vulnerability, it could maybe even send an event. Hey, there is a new vulnerability. And you can release this, and then it will automatically light up in your system, in your CI/CD pipeline, in your dashboards. You have a vulnerability here. Have a look, because you have it in this and this and this places in your product. So that I think would be a very nice
And it goes very fast, and it's also, as all security things, it has sort of a built-in traceability. Of course, you need to do it secure, but you have this, built-in traceability thing, which is really nice. That's an interesting use case. But it requires probably a slight modification of the protocol, or at least we need to tweak the usage of it. So there's no natural event to represent that today, I believe.
When the vulnerability event comes, what will happen is it that I mean, apart from the general notification, I don't exactly see what are you going to do with it, because then you want to prevent something, and that is the same thing as saying that you're doing a policy assessment, and of course you can do the policy assessment as soon as you need to do it, and the normal situation would be prior to release something.
Yeah.
But I just don't see that we would do it that part. I just don't see why we do it April based.
I mean, the event can be from April protocol, and you can build a link to it, and then it would be on human interaction, I think, to decide how fast do you need to react according to the policies which are defined in that company. So if it is a vulnerability of 10 out of 10 when it comes to the criticality, then okay, I need to have a look right away and solve it within, I don't know, 5 days or something, let's say, based on the policy.
Okay, so we are talking about basically one notification thing here, more than anything else. Yeah. But
But
then it will be based on official sources.
Precis.
One thing that I'm missing is if you're not building your Sbom at build time and making it available immediately with your artifact, it would probably be nice to have some kind of convention or rule for how to publish it afterwards. I'm just looking at in the package URL spec if there was something, if there was a Perl type for Sbom, for example, but there isn't. So, I mean, you could publish an artifact and link to the original artifact and have some kind of identity, but probably good to have a convention of how that's done for interoperability purposes.
Yeah. I think my time is slightly up.
There's lots of time, don't.
Yeah, well, if you have some further discussions, we can continue, of course. Yeah.
I can bring up some observations. There are plenty of cases where a Perl is changing after a couple of years. The software is moved somewhere, so an old Perl would not work anymore. So that can mean an old Sbom would not point to anything meaningful. So that is a case that can happen, and the vulnerability can occur. It's difficult.
Can you see some other use cases which you would benefit from in your products and the way how you work?
Concern regarding this technical data vulnerabilities overview. I mean, to know which product components are impacted, etc. It's really good for us as a company. It's really good for the customers to know, but also really good for a hacker to know. So if we publish the Sbom's information visible, the hacker know exactly where the attack vectors are on our products. If we have a serial play vulnerability. I think the Sbom information should be classified information somehow. And putting that information into events, then we need to secure the events more than we do today.
You need access control.
So that's why I tend to lean towards this linking to the information.
But what do you mean classified? You mean in some cases you are required to disclose it publicly?
Yes. But I think you need to be aware of the security risks of doing that. And I think that is not really discussed in an open fashion today. The hacker will have into that type of information. Of course, it can get it on its own by using Black Duck and other things on its own. But if publicly just send it to everyone, the hacker should have that information as well.
Yeah, basically served on the silver plate just to pick up it.
But you do have sort of all composition and structural information that is being, where you cipher events to do that is sort of, also sort of attack vector material. So there are already such information there, although this would just sort of add on to it. But it shows that if one should continue to have that sort of information, you should have a better understanding of the classification of the events, but also probably have some means to control the access to information. So not everyone would be seen by everyone, but instead being controlled. the classification and access management
Mm.
on event-based, which is sort of an additional thing on the security letter, could be discussed. Because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. With too much sort of knowledgeable material out there, and that tax bracket would be sort of a green heaven. Everyone would basically go to live elements to figure things out and know how to destroy our systems. That's not good.
True,
To go
it's
there,
definitely-
we need to do other measures to protect the information as well.
Definitely.
I'm seeing here on the chat that Emil also agrees with the comment on keeping Sbom confidential.
Starting with reference is probably not such a bad suggestion given the situation, but it shouldn't necessarily stop there. But at least the pragmatic way to make sure we don't overdo it or make it vulnerable to start with.
But I guess it also ties back to the core idea with it was that you link the information.
Mhm.
If there is information there, we shouldn't duplicate it or link it to it. So that feels pretty good.
Sounds like more. No. Thank you for the discussion then. That was basically it from me. I really wanted to trigger the discussion, and that was really nice to see that I made people think. That was my aim. And let us see where we evolve over the time. Thank you.
Thank you.